Welcome to Guest of the Year. I'm the host. My name's Mike. This week's setlist curator and prize pack provider is designer and deadhead Meghan Fabulous. Her vibrant apparel made for women of all body types have been worn by numerous celebrities, including Angelina Jolie, Shakira, Paris Hilton, and Sharon Stone, and featured in publications such as Elle, Vogue, Glamour, Harper's Bazaar, and People. Her hippie, bohemian, and often gleaming wearable art is immediately recognizable, and she recently launched her officially licensed Grateful Dead line, appropriately named Grateful Dead Fabulous. You can access her Instagram and website via the link in the show notes. Welcome, Meghan.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super stoked to be here.
All right, here's how the game works. We'll play the first part of a Grateful Dead live track, and each contestant will use the messaging system to silently guess which year their performance is from. Contestants, who are all on a video conference together, can message in their guesses at any time during the clip or in the 10 seconds after it concludes. Whoever is furthest from the correct year is eliminated. The last two deadheads standing will hear 3 tracks, and whoever is closest to the correct years in aggregate wins. We've got our 4-time returning champ Brett here with us, and we'll meet the rest of the deadheads in a moment. But first, without further ado, the Grateful Dead.
Let us put men and women together, see which one is smarter. Some say men, but I say no. Moving on the men like a puppet show. It ain't me, it's the people that say men are leading the women astray. I said it's the women that get smarter than the men in every way. That's right, the women are smarter. That's right, the women are smarter. That's right, the women are smarter. The women are smarter. That's right, that's right. Little boy sit on a corner and cry. Little man come and ask him why. He said, I can't deal with the big boy. It ain't me, it's the people that say men are leading the women instead. I say it's the women today, smaller than the men who live.
The guesses are in. It was Man Smart, Woman Smarter at the Centrum in Worcester, Massachusetts on November 5th, 1985. Meghan, jump and pick. Tell us about it.
I mean, I love the song for obvious reasons, and I don't think they play it enough. And I've listened to so many different versions, and I'm just at the jazzy gal, like the Dead to me, when they're like, and people are dancing and, twirling and like you get the whole crowd going, that is my Dead. So any kind of, pumping, fun, moving and grooving, I love it.
It can't be too fast for you.
Oh my God. I mean, no.
Love it. I really enjoyed that one as well. Daniel and Gavin were equally close. They both guessed 83. Gavin is 47 from Las Vegas by way of Chicago. Welcome, Gavin. 83, tell us.
So I was listening, for the, if Bobby was going to go right into that second verse, or if it was going to be a Brent second verse. And then also with the keyboard, just to hear how it was being played, and then just kind of clue into other shows I've heard in that general era and be able to kind of piece the year or piece that, exact time. It sounded a little younger to me. It sounded 83 to me just because of how fast it was. But, I'll take it being only 2 years off, I guess.
On a mid-80s track, you've gotta, yeah. Daniel also guessed 83. Daniel is 50 from Toronto. Welcome, Daniel. Why 83?
I started in 87, but then there's something about that drum sound from the earlier part of the 80s that I don't know what it is, but I picked up on that. And yeah, I'm telling you, the mid 80s are tough. It's all hard through there. So I just went with 83.
Brett guessed 82. He was 3 years off. Benny was 3 years off as well. He guessed 88.
Oh,
Everyone's
thank
on to the
God.
next round.
Oh my gosh.
I saved you.
I was going to be so disappointed.
Nice.
Oh my God. Ripped around.
We'll go to our 4-time returning champ, Brett, fresh off a absolute classic overtime finals last week. Brett is 29 from Holland, Pennsylvania. A rare 3 years off from you, Brett. Tell us about it.
I feel like I just kind of got locked into to 82 like immediately and nearly convinced myself like the whole time almost. So I shouldn't be doing that. I heard like an early version of Man Smart, Woman Smarter, and I think I think it was just I thought the Brent Keys kind of lined up well with that era. Basically it.
Sure. And Benny is 37 from Rockaway Beach, Queens, New York. Tell us about 88.
Yeah, 88. You know what it was? There was a fidelity to the recording quality, which fooled me a little. Because if I piece everything together now, of course, it didn't sound like 88. Jerry's voice was pretty haggard and kind of in the background. I also couldn't really hear Brent's keys very prominently, which should have tipped me again that it wasn't going to be late 80s. But I was same Gavin, I was listening for the Brent second verse, and that would have told me if it was 89. And then when I heard it was Bobby, I was like 88. It was just a nervous thing, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
Great. Everyone's on the next round, and Meghan has another fabulous pick. All right, the guesses are in. It was Deal at the Cap Center in Landover, Maryland on July 29th, 1974. Meghan, super fun pick. Tell us about it.
I mean, again, it's so layered. It's like I love a keyboard. I mean, I wanted to be a piano player when I was a little kid until I figured out that I was not musically inclined whatsoever. But I just love the different layers of all, and the jazz, and like you know what I mean? Like you could just see everybody's like dancing. I mean, like that's what it is to me. It's just fun. It feels good. Like you can feel it in your veins and your bones.
Yeah, and you have a Vegas collection coming out soon. Can we tease that, or is that under wraps still?
No, we can talk about it. I'm actually I did a collaboration with Jay Blakesberg, and it turns out Jay has one of the biggest archives of memorabilia and that you can even imagine. And he had sent me some photos of things that he had, and I was like, "Holy, you know what? This would make an amazing print." And the next thing you know, it's like our brains are going, and I'm really excited.
Cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see it at the Sphere. Daniel, Gavin, and Brett all guessed 73. And the only one who got it was 74, was Benjamin. So again, everyone's on to the next round. Benny, will go to you, the only one who got 74. Nice pull.
Thank you. Yeah, it was between 73 and 74. I am not one of those people who's like, oh yeah, that's easily Wall of Sound. Like, it depends on the night, honestly. I think that the microphone, I know they were using the noise canceling mics in 73 as well. Well, I listened for the S's with when Jerry an S and it's like sounds like kind of like it's clipping. That kind of gives away that it's one of those 2 years, and I don't know. They had a tendency in the one drummer era. Wow. To kind of like take a normal standard song, and then on one particular night, Keith might do something that's just like I never heard him really play like that on a deal. And that's something that was really special about the one drummer era. Like things just kind of happened to be weird. That's just a strange version of deal. Maybe it's just the mix. Maybe Keith's just really loud in the mix, but I heard it. And like, I don't know, 74 jumped out mainly because of Jerry's voice clipping.
That's a really good clue. Nice work. So everyone else got a 73. Daniel, why 73?
Just because Keith was so prominent on the piano, I feel like he started moving to the other keyboards in 74. He started playing the Rhodes and everything. And I knew I was going to be in and around it, and I just went to 73.
Brett, 73 as well.
Yeah, I thought because of the sound. I mean, there are certainly some more muffled 74 wall sound as well, but I thought that it sounded very much 73. I think it was a good point from Benny there, but I didn't really hear like some distinction between that would have told me either way, 73 or 74. So just because of the recording quality, perhaps I just went a year earlier.
Right on. And Gavin, anything you want to add to the breakdown?
Yeah, I actually thought after I put the guess in, I thought it was 72 or 71 just because of how prominent Keith was in the mix with the piano. And since it was kind of new Keith still at that point, I thought maybe I was like, oh, shoot. I thought it was 70 because I just heard a show, the Hollywood show from 72 last night. And there were pieces of it that led me to believe that it could have been a little bit earlier even.
Great, Gavin. You and everyone are on to the next round. Megan has another pick. Let's hear it.
I told Alfie I was feeling lost, lacking in some direction. Alfie told me upon scrutiny my back might need protection. I told Alfie that treachery was tearing me limb from limb.
In Althea at Compton Terrace Amphitheater in Tempe, Arizona. I don't think we've ever had a show there before. December 6th, 1992. Great pick. Tell us about that,
Thank
Althea.
you. I really thought like we'd be done by now, that everyone would have got them because I'm, they're so basic. These,
No, you spun everyone on that one. You will find. Tell us about it.
Well, Althea's lyrics are my favorite ever. Can't talk to you without talking to me. It's very, I just speaks to me. When he was singing to himself. That's what I take away from Althea. And this is the most interesting version of Althea I've ever heard. It's the layers, it's like that 7-layer bean dip, but like 20-layer bean dip. I love it. It's so great. And if I had a child, her name would be Althea.
I love that. And I love that interpretation. Like all good poetry, it's open for a lot of different interpretations.
And I think that's the one thing about the Grateful Dead, that everybody takes away something different. Like you guys see what I get from the Grateful Dead is like sparkle and fun and, like different. I think everybody gets something different. And that's the beauty of this music, is just like everybody gets something different. It like satisfies everyone's soul in a different way, which I think they're the best band of all time.
Thank you, Megan. Great pick. Brett got it exactly. 1992. He's on in the next round. Nice pull.
I was really tempted to go a little bit later in the 90s because of, I knew it was into the 90s because of the keyboard sound. Could hear Vince. But I thought Jerry sounded solid still. He didn't sound like he was up there dying. He sounded, like his voice was still in a pretty solid state. And the guitar tone wasn't kind of thin like 93 onwards. It was still, it still had a bit of a richer, thicker tone to it. So, and I knew it was post Brent, like I said. So it kind of narrowed it down to either 91 or 92. And I think Bobby's guitar kind of sealed 92 to me because it was just so loud. And I know as you get further into the 90s, his guitar just gets louder and louder to maybe make up for the some of the shortcomings of Jerry. So yeah, that's how it came about 92.
Gavin is also on in the next round. He gets 93.
A show that I would listen to a lot when I was younger was the Silver Bowl show here from May of 93. And there was an Althea in the first set of that one. And the sounds of it were strikingly similar, although this was a lot richer in guitar, like Brett was saying, with on Jerry's end of it, at least. But that's what struck me immediately. And so I knew, it definitely wasn't 95. Probably not 94, so that's where I landed on 93 with that.
Great. Benny guessed 89. He's on in the next round, and Daniel guessed 82 and 88. Either way, Daniel, you'd be eliminated. So I guess we could just talk about 88 if you prefer to break it down rather than 82.
Look, I'll be honest. I'm going to get so much shit over this from my buddies that it's like, it's all good.
Okay.
I put in my 82 very quick. So what happened with me was I did not hear the keys. For some reason, it wasn't registering with me. And I don't listen to a lot of 90s, even though those were most of the shows I went to. Don't listen to a ton of 90s. And Bobby in the mix just threw me off. So I threw in very fast 82. But then when I heard Jerry's voice, as Brett was saying, his voice still sounded really like it had that age thing to it, but still sounded strong. Like I know he, 93, 95, not as much. So, yeah, but I did not pick up on the Vince thing. So I'm very ashamed.
So who are you afraid of is going to give you grief? Just some buddies?
Yes. In fact, it was one of my buddies' birthday today. Happy birthday, Scoot. And he's going to enjoy this immensely. So, yeah.
Scoot. Birthday.
Right on. 1 second. We're going to come back to you, Daniel, hear your dead origin story. But Benny, you guessed 89. You're on to the next round. Why 89?
I'm kicking myself, man. Well, same thing. Jerry's voice was the thing, right? I knew the 90s. So 90s are my downfall. I don't really listen to the 90s. I've heard some good shows, but by and large, I don't love the 90s because there's such a wealth of amazing top tier, like fantastic shows before Jerry's health decline in the 90s. And I just not a fan of the era. So I heard Jerry's voice and it sounded, Jerry, something happened between like after 88 and 89, especially summer 89, where Jerry's voice, he became like the old storyteller. He really got comfortable where his voice was and he knew how to work his vocal cords in a very comfortable and strong way again, which is like my favorite. So I'm kicking myself that I picked one of my favorite years. And it was in 92. But if it sounded like that Jerry, which is what had formed me, I was thrown off too by the Loud Bob slide, which was never my bag. But yeah.
Well, you're on to the next round, Benny. Nice work. Daniel, how'd you get into the Dead?
Early on in high school, I went to go see a cover band at my high school and they were playing a bunch of, classic rock. And there was a band called The Kind. I heard them play Bertha that night and I loved it. And then I was walking through the halls of my high school. I heard Uncle John's band and loved that. And then my parents went away for about a month and left me and my brother at home in the house. He had a bunch of buddies over. They left Europe 72 on the turntable and that was it. Like Brown Eyed Women was like the greatest song I'd ever heard. And I literally went from like part like China Rider and then the whole thing. And I was on the bus.
So as a Canadian, you had to travel a bit further for shows.
Yeah. So my first show was 1990 in Hamilton, the second night, which was a crazy night. I was 16 years old. I lost my ticket walking into the venue. I freaked out. I went back to my hotel room. I ended up finding a scalper that got me 8th row and I had the greatest night of my life. And that 3/22/90 show was incredible. And then every summer I would travel to see a few shows. So, Buffalo, Pine Knob.
So you lost your ticket. What happened? You just walking with it and it was just gone?
It was in my pocket. Okay, I have a sneaking suspicion that one of the guys I was with had 2 tickets, but it was never proven.
Interesting.
Yeah. But I literally had exactly $50 on me, and that was it. And there's no bank machines back then, and all. So the scalper said $50, and I was like, I thought it was a fake ticket. It was a whole deal.
Did you consider just cutting your losses and going home?
Yeah, at that point, yes. And then when I got in the stadium, they kept on sending me forward, and I was like, I didn't want to get kicked out because I thought it might be a fake ticket, and they kept on pushing me down. I was 8th row, front of Phil.
So you think your friend stole your ticket?
I don't think he stole it. I think it was a mix-up.
Okay.
But then couldn't cop to it after the mix-up, and we're not friends anymore. But that's not why.
That's not the friend that is going to be happy to see your downfall on Guest of the Year.
Exactly. Exactly.
I appreciate you coming on Guest of the Year, Daniel.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It was fun.
Gavin, Brett, and Benny are on to the next round. Megan's got another pick. All right, so Scarlet Begonias at St. Paul Civic Center on July 3rd, 1978. That was taped by Robert Wagner. Megan, lovely pick. Why that Scarlet Begonias?
Okay, so Scarlet Begonias has a very important meaning to me because Steve always told me you're like Scarlet Begonias. You're not like every girl, and that really resonates with me because I don't feel like I'm like every girl. But then it was like, okay, when you told me, Mike, like we're coming on this show, I got to pick something. Like, I thought all my picks leading up to this were going to be really cakewalk. Like everybody would be like, oh, I remember when he riffed into this jam. Like I love when Deadheads talk like that. Like, oh, did you notice when he's riffed from like Fire into Scarlet? It was so great, man. It was so great. He was really good. I love that about Deadheads. But I wanted to try to pick something that was a little bit like, I thought it might be difficult because Jerry's voice isn't very, it's not as strong. So you might confuse that with another time. But then, I also know that keyboard has a lot to do with, but it's a faint, like it's not a crisp recording. So I purposely picked that just to try to be a little bit difficult, but you guys all probably got it anyway. So
they were very close. Yeah, no soundboard exists for that show, only audience recordings. What do you think about the Dead and the way females are portrayed in their songs? You've got Althea here and Man Smart, Women Smarter, Scarlet Begonias. What kind of themes do you pick up on in their lyrics?
Well, it's interesting that you asked me that, Mike, because I really feel like, and I'm not that I'm saying like I'm the voice of the women of the Grateful Dead, but I really feel like there isn't a voice for the women of the Grateful Dead. And I feel like that's something that I've made it one of my missions is like bring the women and give them something fashionable, give them something that makes them feel, spectacular when they're at the shows. I tell all of my girlfriends, if you want to meet a really great guy, I'm 46. You want to meet a really great guy, go to a Grateful Dead show because the ratio of men to women is like 10-1. I'm like, come with me. I will introduce you to some really great, granted, a lot of them are married, but like there are a lot of great single dudes I met a great guy. I think that there is just so much room for growth within women, within the music of the Grateful Dead and in the community that, we're not being represented. That, that's kind of one of my missions is to be like, here, look at this really great world that you could be exploring.
What great work you're doing. Thank you, Megan.
Thank you.
Gavin and Brett got it exactly 78. Benny guessed 77, and he shakes his head. 1 year off on an odd, Benny. You know it happens. Gavin, you're on to the final 78.
I knew there were a couple shows in that time frame that didn't have soundboards. That show, the Omaha show, and the Omaha show, and the Kansas City show, and I knew with the speed of it and the relaxed tone that they had, it wasn't a crisp 77 or the building blocks of 76 where they were still kind of building up to being the rockers that they kind of became. So yeah, it was a little looser and maybe a touch on the sloppy side because a lot of the shows in that spring tour up through Santa Barbara and Eugene and that summer tour, they weren't the best shows, but they were a lot of fun. And I think this is just kind of the build up to when they did the Red Rock shows later on.
Good knowledge that an audience was the only one that existed for this show. That clearly came in handy. Nice work. Brett, 78.
Yeah, much of the same stuff that Gavin said. I will just add that I was very conflicted, actually, because it was so loose and raggedy sounding. I thought maybe it was right at the end. Maybe it was like early 79 because they were still with the band right in early 79. So that would have been a really nasty one there. So good thing I didn't think too deeply there and just stuck with 78. I actually, this past year, I listened to the entire year of 78 pretty much. I did skip a few audience recordings during this time period, actually, funny enough. So I probably never listened to that show. But yeah, definitely every soundboard, even some of the good. There's that one in Nashville that was audience only, and I dipped my toe in to think, oh, is this audience good? Rocks. I listened to this one. So, but 78's a great year. It's a little uneven, but it's a great year still. Great choice.
Brett, you're on to the finals, going for your 5-peat. Pretty incredible.
Wow. Awesome.
Benny, 77. Talk to us.
Yeah, I was like literally pushing my headphones into my ears to try to grab onto something there. I definitely couldn't even hear the piano. At least I don't know if you guys could. So I was just trying to go off of Jerry's voice, which I can't say it didn't sound bad to me at all. It sounded very young, and I definitely knew it wasn't like a 74 Scarlet because those are like a flavor of their own. And I knew it wasn't 76. I was thinking between 77, 78, and gut told me 77. There wasn't much. I should have picked up on the less pristine, a little more, slightly sloppy nature of that era of 78. But yeah, good shit, guys. Wow. I'm actually surprised I made it this far with how many times I was wrong. So I will be back and I will be victorious one day.
Wow. Calling a shot. Benny, how'd you get into the Dead?
It's weird. I don't really know. My father, so I'm 38, right? I was too young to see them with Jerry, but my father had like 8 albums that he played over and over again, like 3 Rolling Stones albums, and 2 of them were Working Man's and American Beauty. That's all I knew about the Grateful Dead for the first several years of my life. I remember being crushed when Jerry died, and I didn't even know why. Like literally, I don't think I ever heard a live show. I remember just being 8 years old and like crushed. And then like my brother, it was really my brother who's 4 years older than me, had a bunch of older heads turn him on and give him tapes. It was like Dozing at the Nick. He would play a lot. And then he got some bootlegs. He got like 78, that Red Rocks run. And I would get the tapes that were dubbed after that. My brother's certainly a very big Grateful Dead fan, but like I became obsessed in like high school. Once I found out the Internet Archive existed, it was over. And I quickly became enamored and in love with like 79 to 82. I don't know why, but that's my shit. I know they were better in the 70s, like technically. They were all at their musical peaks, I guess. But there's something about like, there's a sandwich involved. And I feel like when all the flavors combine, that's my favorite sandwich. Like I have a real, no offense to people who do like Donna, I have a really hard time with Donna. Like it's not a sound that I quite enjoy. So it's like I was sorry, I know this is going to sound offensive to some people, but Sometimes it's like 70s is like eating the most delicious sandwich, but every once in a while there's a shard of glass in there. That's kind of how I feel about it. So, or like tinfoil or something, you know?
Shovel,
and then,
keep shoveling.
I'm sorry. All due respect to people who don't feel that way. I apologize in advance.
No,
but
safe space. All
there's
opinions
something
welcome.
about when Brent joined that like I became obsessed with, because I thought he was the strongest harmony vocalist they ever had. His playing was amazing, and I just feel like Jerry kind of lit up at that point. So 79 to 82, almost all of my favorite shows are in that era, and there's just some dogs in that era too. I know that, like, they weren't on every night, but when they were on, that's my shit.
Did other people overlooking it increase your enjoyment? Was it a contrarian stance a little bit?
No, it's actually became, it's funny. So I would get upset because I'd be like, people are so dismissive of this era. Like, did you guys hear the Garden box set? Like, holy shit. It's just like godlike stuff, in my opinion. Like that China Rider from MSG 81, like, then there's so much of that in that, but you got to go digging, right? It's not all right there. And there's a lot of shitty recordings from 81 too. 81 is actually my favorite year. There's a lot of bad recordings from that year, but the good ones are amazing. Someone also insulted Steely Dan a few weeks ago on this show.
Kyle, yeah.
And that one hit me like a gut punch because I'm obsessed with Steely Dan. I wanted to just defend their name. But Mike, I just really want to say, like, this is the coolest idea ever. So like, I wish you guys the best of luck. Literally, when I showed my wife that this exists, I said, finally, something I could be good at.
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
Anyway.
thanks, Ben. He's certainly not my idea. You know, as everyone knows, everyone's been playing forever, but I'm proud to be the one who makes everyone get on a Zoom. Thanks for
and can
appreciate
I
it.
do one shout out real quick?
Dude, hit it.
So my own, I'm promoting myself. So if you're a deadhead and you don't listen to hip hop music, I have a podcast that I do with my buddies called the Boom Bap Book Club on all streaming platforms, including YouTube. Maybe just see if there's some hip hop music that you've never really given a chance, and check us out.
Do you have an Instagram, Benny?
Yeah, Boom Bap Book Club. And we really do deep dives, like the way Deadheads kind of analyze a Dark Star. We'll do that with like a random hip hop album that we love. There's a lot of, just like all music, there's a lot of shitty hip hop and there's a lot of amazing hip hop, just like every other genre. So
okay, so Benny, you walk up to a random Wook on the lot, sucking on a balloon. What album would you recommend to this Wookiee?
If they're just okay, Deltron 3030. It's literally it's a album that it takes place in the year 3030, starring a character named Deltron Zero. It's pretty trippy and it's awesome.
Love it, Benny. I'll put that a link in the show notes for everyone. Thanks, Benny.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys. Good luck.
All right, Brett and Gavin are on to the finals. We have 3 tracks of Meghan's choosing, and whoever is closest over the 3 tracks in aggregate wins the Meghan Fabulous prize pack. Let's hear the first song of the finals.
Look at the daydream, there we are. Most of the cats you've been in the streets of true love. Most of the time they're sitting and crying and falling. One of these days they know they better be going out of the door and down to the street. Oh, trucking like the two-top man once told me, you got to play your hand. Sometimes the cards ain't worth a dime if you don't lay 'em down.
Truckin', somehow only the 3rd Truckin' ever on Guest of the Year. At Pacific Coliseum in Vancouver, British Columbia, shout out Daniel, on May 17th, 1974. Meghan, Fun Truckin', Got some nice flub in there from Bobby. Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the audience really loves when they, show that they're human. These are our gods, right? Oh, and like everybody, we all make mistakes. We all, flub. And as I was diving down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out what is the best of the best, or what do I think represents the fabulous Grateful Dead fabulous, I love that it sounded, like they're normal. They're normal people that are out up there every night, thousands of shows. And to me, that sounded like human. As I dove down into the Grateful Dead fabulous world, I did so much research on them, and like they oftentimes didn't feel like they were in sync. And I think that is just as like, the greatest band of all time, for them not to feel like they're in sync, that's hits home for me that, why am I stressing about the little things? Like here they're playing for, tens of thousands of people, and they don't feel like they're as one as a band, that just feels so authentic.
Sure. So is it nerve-wracking to make an officially licensed line of clothing for your favorite band?
It's not been, this is the first time in my career, 27 years, that I've never felt pressure. It just came naturally. Like I used to collect Grateful Dead t-shirts when I was in high school. I hated the music. I'm not going to lie. I hated it, but I loved the artwork of the Grateful Dead. And it wasn't until later on in my life that, it's like beer. You have beer, you hate it. Then after you like learn to like, wow, that's great. I love an IPA. Oh, this is really amazing. Like I feel like that's how the Grateful Dead is. It's very much, as a woman, I'm speaking as a woman, and this is just my experience. And it wasn't until Paris Hilton wore one of my embellished Grateful Dead t-shirt dresses on a very important TV show on VH1. And like, that's what blew out my career. And so it kind of came full circle 20 years later when I launched this Grateful Dead Fabulous collection as like, this is what my calling is. Like, boom, boom, I'm giving it to you. God, Rhinestone Steely, boom, I'm giving it to you. I'm giving you like all the glitter and I'm just throwing it at you. And this is what has been, it's like, it's the 27 years is like finally come to this place of like, okay, this is what I'm doing with my life. And it just feels very natural to me.
What is it about? Maybe I'm being a gatekeeper here, but I'm assuming that Paris Hilton's not a deadhead. And what is it about non-deadheads that attracts them to the Grateful Dead iconography in your mind?
I mean, it's this. It's like, it's cool. That's what attracted me originally. It's just cool. You feel cool wearing it, and you feel like you're part of something, and you don't know what that something is, but you feel like you're a part of something bigger. And that's how I first started. And like all these kids that I see that buy their t-shirts at Urban Outfitters or wherever, and or Target, you can buy a Grateful Dead t-shirt at Target, but they feel like they're part of something cooler. And it's not till later in life when you finally understand what that cooler thing is.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Well, both these guys guessed 72. Gavin,
Oh my God.
tell us why you guessed 72.
Wow.
Because I was dead ass wrong. That's why I guessed 72. Because what I thought I heard, I didn't hear. I should have known it. I should have heard the Wall of Sound. There's a whole lot of things I should have heard that I just totally missed down there. And I, for some reason, again, went back to the 72 thing, thinking, well, man, that could, it sounds like, right after Keith started, but, a good year or so in, and now they've loosened up a little bit, and I was just dead wrong.
Brett, what was your mindset?
Well, I was all over the place from 71, to 72, 71 to 74. And I really did not hear Wall of Sound in there really at all. I mean, it sounded pre-Wall of Sound. I guess, any given day the recording can sound a certain way. So I was not confident with my 1972 guess at all, but I didn't see it being 74. It just didn't have that sound.
Tricky pick, Megan. Nice one.
Well done.
Gavin, before we go on to the next round, how'd you get into the Dead?
Well, I'm the youngest of many. I'm 48, but my brothers are a lot older than me, and they were seeing shows in the late 70s, mid to late 70s, and like the Auditorium Theater shows, the Uptown show, So they were going to some pretty great shows. I went for the first time in '88 at Alpine, and then I don't know if I took a hiatus, but I didn't end up making it back until '93 at Soldier Field, and then I saw the last Branford Marsalis show at the LA Sports Arena, and then I did the last few shows on their summer tour in '95. But I grew up with a lot of different music, and the Grateful Dead always kind of it reached me a little bit at a younger age, but it didn't like stick because there was so many other options. I mean, there was a lot of great music in the '80s. So you had, your Michael Jackson, your Prince, amongst other things. But then, I went back to a lot of shows, and then I got lucky, and a couple of my buddies, they formed Dark Star Orchestra, and we're playing every Tuesday night down at a little place in the north side of Chicago. And we would go in there, be like $10, and you go see them every Tuesday, and they were incredible. So it was a nice way to really be able to see the setup, because since they recreate the show the way that it was done originally, to see the setup with the the keyboards, or with the way the guitars were set up with the one drum or two drums, and then from there, eventually re-listen became part of my life, and now I listen as much as I possibly can.
So your friends get together to start a Grateful Dead cover band, and that band ends up being Dark Star Orchestra. That's wild.
It was like, I don't want to sound too cheesy, but it was like a dream team kind of thing, where they took different guys off of different cover bands and formed a cover band that became Dark Star Orchestra. So there were guys from another Uncle John's band, and a couple different places, and that's how Dark Star Orchestra formed.
And which were you friends with everyone in the band?
I was friendly with John, and who was the Jerry singer, and I'd get on the list and be able to go to shows, and think I was all cool for a few minutes, but
That is cool. And then he gets called up to the big leagues, right? So what was that like
he
for
got
you?
called up to the big leagues. Well, it was all right, but then because they became so popular, they wouldn't be in Chicago as often. I moved out here in 2011, and they would play Vegas, once a year, maybe twice a year, but they haven't been here in probably 4 or 5 years now. So it's kind of unfortunate. It's almost a completely different crew, except for the Donna singer, Lisa. But they were great. But I got to learn a lot about the band and about their shows through them, and now, like, Brett listening to every single 78 show, I think that's awesome. The 79 is outstanding. And I truly, I think it's really cool to do something like that. Yeah, it's been great. And this whole thing that you're doing is outstanding. And I'm just glad to be part of it.
Thanks, Gavin. Appreciate it. I'm glad you're part of it too. Song 2 of 3 coming up. These guys are tied. They have 2 points each. The idea is to be low as possible. Megan's got another pick. Box of Rain at Hampton Coliseum in Hampton, Virginia on March 20th, 1986. That tape was by Jim Wise, Oade, O-A-D-E, and Scott Clugston. Megan, that was the famous Box of Rain bust out. Why'd you want to highlight it?
Okay, so true story, Steve, my business partner slash my everything in my life, that was his first show ever. And when he told me, he's like, we got to do Box of Rain 3/20/86. I was like, okay, first of all, that's not only his birthday, but also, you know, the first time they played Box of Rain in 13 years, I was like, Steve, everybody's going to get that. That's the easiest choice ever. Like, I could have got that. And I don't know as much as you guys know about Grateful Dead, like as far as the music. And he's like, no, it's really important because, you know, that is the show that really hit home for me about what the Grateful Dead was all about. Cause he was like, it wasn't even the music. The crowd was going crazy. And it was like, you know, you can't even imagine being in that stadium when they hadn't played that song in 13 years. And, you know, I think Bobby had said, you know, practice makes perfect. You know, here we are again playing this song. So it was kind of like I had to put it there. I knew it was easy, but I also knew that it was so important. It's so important to like my culture, and Steven really has been my influential everything about teaching me about the music of the Grateful Dead. So, I mean, it was an obvious choice.
Thanks, Megan. Gavin guessed 88, and he was closer because Brett guessed 89. Gavin, 88, you were closer. Tell us about it.
Phil Lesh's vocal song, like the songs he sings, are my absolute kryptonite. I mean, it was just a total guess based on, you know, the crowd being thrilled to hear him sing. I didn't realize that they even brought that song back in 86. It had the beat of an 88. So that was what my educated guess was on that.
Sure. And Brett, 89.
Yeah, the recording was awfully hard to decipher when exactly in the 80s that would be from. I went with 89 because I knew that they did some Box of Rain in 89. I didn't actually know when they broke it out again. There's a weird obsession with 86 in this show. I don't know what it is. It's not a remotely good year at all. But anyway.
Yeah, that one you kind of have to like know it based on the crowd or you don't. There's nothing there. Well, Brett has 5 points. Gavin has 4. Gavin's up by 1 going to the last song in the finals. Before we hear it, we're going to keep everyone on the edge of their seat. Megan, last to go. How'd you get into the Dead?
I mean, I'm not going to lie. So many times I could have seen Jerry when he was alive and I didn't. I actually fell in love with the iconography of the Grateful Dead way before I fell in love with the music. I was 9 years old and it was 1986 and my parents were going through a really hard divorce. And so the way that I coped was going to the local music market. I'd ride my bike there every day after school. And I would flip through all like, you know, the records or whatnot. And I'll never forget seeing the Steely from across. And I was like, what the hell is that? And I went over and I had a paper route at the time. So I didn't have like massive income and I couldn't afford a record at that time. So I bought a single, which was The Touch of Grey. And I ran home and I put it in and I was like, I hate this. This is horrible. But I loved the artwork of the Grateful Dead. And so from then on, through high school, I started collecting Grateful Dead t-shirts. And so like this one is from 1977. You can see all the distressing. It was actually sold at the shows. And I collected all these amazing t-shirts and I would like reconstruct them and deconstruct them and make dresses out of them and bead them. And it was in 2004 that Paris Hilton wore one of my deconstructed Grateful Dead t-shirts to the That's Hot Awards at the VH1, and she won. And she was on. You can Google Paris Hilton Grateful Dead, and there it is, the dress, and that's what actually launched my career. And you know, and it just skyrocketed. And I knew from that point on that you know at some point I'd circle back to Grateful Dead within fashion. And I've had a great career, you know, making women's dresses and fashion. And it was in 2018 when I met my soulmate, Steve, who's a huge Deadhead. And he taught me everything about the music. You know, I mean, it walked me through what the lyrics were about and the songs and just everything that had to do with what the music really meant. And that's when I actually really fell in love with the beauty and the art of this band. And I mean, yes, I'm mad at myself that I could have walked across the street to the Irvine Meadows and seen them a million times because I grew up in Orange County, California. But I wouldn't have appreciated it as much as I do now. Like it came full circle for me. And it was kind of like, okay, I want to make fashion for the women of the Grateful Dead community and, fabulous fashion, because there are a lot of us. And to end my career on this note, it just feels like a dream come true.
Are you retiring after this?
I mean, I've just been in this business for like the fashion business is so hard. You think entertainment's hard. Like you got to put a dress in front of a woman. She's got to not be on her period. She's got to like it. She's got to, okay, can I afford it? I'm not going to sale. Like women are just so hard to, service. It's just such a hard business. And I really feel like, there's so many other things that I want to do in my lifetime. Like I'm going to be 50 soon. I feel like I need to, what else is there out there for me? And I just feel like, this has been great. But to go out with a Grateful Dead collection and multiple collections and like service all the women that do want to be fabulous at a Grateful Dead show. Cause like they're all in the Fish world, the women are all like sparkly and fun. I know they're in the Grateful Dead world. They just don't have the options yet. So here I am and I'm here for you.
Whoa. Well, that's very authentic of you to close the book on something. If this is the end, it's or just
I don't know.
Or maybe it's a Dead and Company end.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, it's 5-4. Brett needs to make up some ground to get us 5 Pete. Let's hear the next song.
Coming from a sweet dream, sunshine daydream, waiting in the cold stream, home at your window, going where the wind goes, we never gonna miss us. Let us see, I got you in the morning sunshine, sunshine daydream, sunshine daydream.
Sugar Mag in a Sunshine Daydream at Manor Downs in Austin, Texas on October 12th, 1977. That's an unknown audience recording. Megan.
I mean, again, I need to throw some glitter. Throw some glitter on the fire. I just love that song. And I love that version of it. And it probably is a very easy guess. But I'm just saying authentic to myself. Why am I going to try to make it tricky for everybody? I just really love it. It's like jazzy. It's fun. You got some, Donna action in there and nothing more to say.
Megan, you're hilarious. You're here throwing these obscure audience recordings and it's like, easy. You weren't amazing,
yeah, you're not
Megan.
giving yourself enough credit with these picks,
fabulous.
Megan.
Thank you. You should have an all women's one, Mike.
I'd love to.
We can, I know some ladies.
Well, it was a lovely pick. Brett got exactly 77. Gavin guessed 76. So once again, on the third song, Brett forces a fourth song of the finals. Clutch, Brett, tell us about 77.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it was between 77 and 78. And I would just say I got lucky, to be honest. I didn't think that she'd pick the same year. That was the reason for 77. But I thought it sounded smooth too. It sounded nice and not raggedy and groovy. So,
and Gavin 76.
Yeah, I thought Donna wasn't as out there as she was in some 77 and 78 versions of that song. And I thought maybe it was like in October or, one of the later 76 versions of that song. I also just didn't think there was any that she was going to do a 77 song.
Yeah, she saved it for song number 7. Cool. Got another song. Overtime. Whoever is closest wins the Meghan Fabulous prize pack.
Maybe it's 'cause it's midnight, darker than the moon beside. Maybe the stars in your eyes, maybe the dark is from 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 your eyes. Oh, you got such dark eyes. Shaking on shakedown street.
The guesses are in Shakedown Street at Merriweather Post Pavilion in Columbia, Maryland on June 30th, 1985. Megan, great pick.
Who doesn't love Shakedown Street? I mean, not just Shakedown Street, the actual Shakedown Street, but like the song is such a, it's so, fabulous. It's just like, and I love this version because Jerry's a little bit, to me, he sounds not so crisp, but you can listen to it and actually feel like you're at the show. And it feels to me like what a Shakedown Street should sound like.
Sure. Great soundboard, too. Gavin guessed 84. Brett guessed 83. Gavin's the new champ of Guess the Year. Bravo, Gavin. Not easy to dethrone.
Oh my
Brett,
God.
4-time champ. Brett, incredible run. You captured the hearts and minds of Guess the Year listeners across the globe. Gavin, tell us about 84. Nice pull.
Thank you. As we discussed in one of the many songs, that Brett and I are pretty weak in our knowledge of the mid-'80s. And I went by Brett's keys. I went by the Jerry's voice sounded haggard, and that it wasn't one of the shakedowns that I liked, in the early Brent era, or in the 79, 80 era. So I knew it wasn't late 80s, so I went ahead and landed on 84.
Brilliant work. That was a gauntlet, and you navigated it. Congrats. Brett, incredible run. You're one of the winningest Guess the Year contestants ever. Why 83?
Oh, thank you. Well, I thought Jerry's voice sounded actually not so bad there. I mean, it was a little bit of a struggle, which it started to become starting in 83. I was definitely between 83 and 84, to be fair. I really was. That was the direction I was going towards 84. Yeah, I mean, Brent's keys sort of, I guess were probably similar to that of the 85 one we had earlier. Although he certainly varied his tone a lot. A lot of experimentation in the mid 80s with Brent, with different sounds and stuff like that. So sort of hard to go by that in the mid 80s.
Well, Brett, congratulations on a great run.
Thank you, and congratulations, Gavin. I should have been knocked off last week, so I felt fortunate to even be here this week. So, and I almost got lucky again. So, good job, Gavin.
Not a lot of luck going on here, Brett. Yeah, you've been incredible. Thank you, and Gavin, congratulations on knocking off a Titan. And Megan, thank you so much for your brilliant picks that you didn't give yourself enough credit for, and you were fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on.
It was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you so much for listening. For all the show links, including our YouTube channel, go to guesstheyear.net. Thank you so much to Meghan Fabulous for not only curating the wonderful set list, but also providing the prize pack from her new collection, Grateful Dead Fabulous. Again, the link is in the show notes. We really, really appreciate you, Meghan. And if you want to be a contestant on the show, sponsor the show, or make comments and ask questions, email us at info@guesttheyear.net. Shout out to Dylan for drawing the poster and James and Jack for helping out behind the scenes. Thank you so much for listening. Thanks to the Tapers whose recordings made the show possible. Congratulations to our new champ, Gavin. And to other contestants, thanks for playing, and remember, it's all one song anyway.
And I bid you good night, good night, good night. And I bid you good night, good night, good night.